Hi, fourth graders! Welcome to Art Today. You need a piece of paper and something to write with. Today we will be using this standard from Language Arts about finding themes that are similar in different cultures, different stories from different cultures. So I have a couple examples today of a story where the less powerful creature helps out the more powerful creature. And if you look into these stories, they have some things that are similar and some things that are different. The example that you might know is The Lion and the Mouse. That's the story that we're going to illustrate today, but a couple other stories I looked up that have this same theme or similar theme are Mr. Buffu and the Snake, which is an Anansi tale, and the Ungrateful Tiger, which is Korean. So we'll do the one from Aesop's Fables today, but you can go ahead and look those other ones up if you'd like to compare the themes. So we'll be drawing the end of the story today, where the lion is freed from the ropes that he's bound with by the mouse. The mouse frees the lion. So we'll start by drawing our two creatures here in the middle. So for our lion, come right about to the middle of your paper, maybe a little bit off to the right. And we're going to do a curved line over the top, the lion's face, and then come down and up at the bottom. And then above that point, we're going to do like a soft triangle. So like two lines going up like a V and then curve over the top like this. And then we will have two lines that come up from the nose, curving up, and over even further and back for the eye. We'll do an eye on both sides like that. Okay, and then under the nose here, we'll do one more curved line like this to finish off the mouth area. Okay, next we'll do the mane. So it's going to look a little shorter. I moved my pen up a little bit from the face and I started doing these zigzags, and they're a little closer to the face up here. And then as we go down to the side, the zigzags might get a little farther away, and especially at the bottom where they hang down, they're longer like this. Okay, there's the mane, and then we'll get to see some ears poking up like that. All right, and then let's do the back of the lion. So coming about to in between the eyes and the nose, off to the side, we're going to slant up and back a little bit, and then we'll come back down here under the face to do these two front legs. So we have a line down, and it's let's do both lines for the outsides of the legs, and they're angling in a little bit so that the legs are a little bigger at the top, and then maybe they get a little thinner at the bottom. And then we'll put a paw like this for each leg. And then we'll come here to where that inside leg ends, and we're going to curve up, but not go all the way to where the back was here. Just kind of stop right there. And then we'll bring this down, and from the back we'll curve down. So we're making the back leg, and do you see how it ends higher up here? Because the back slanted back this way, and our legs are the same length, so we want them to look like similar length. And here's one more leg that we can see. Maybe it kind of curves back and forward. I'll show you that. Okay, and then a tail. So we see the tail coming off to the side here. Maybe a thin tail. here. Okay. And then there's our lion. Then we'll move to our mouse. So of course we want to make the mouse smaller than the lion to show this story that the lion is more powerful. So we're going to do the mouse's head is a similar, so we're going to start with a curved line over the top. And then we're going to come down almost to a point. Again, you can kind of join two little lines there at the bottom, like a tooth. And then for the ears, the mouse's ears look pretty big on the mouse. Let's get that cute mouse look. And then maybe we'll draw a line on the inside too. And then we'll have a nose here at the bottom, so a circle, and two eyes, and two lines going up from the nose toward the eyes. Then we're going to start from the top of the mouse's head by this ear that's closer to the middle of the page, and we're going to curve over the mouse and down. So there's his back, and then come to the side of the head, and we're actually going to angle down, and then bring the back of the body up to meet that. So there's our mouse's body, and we need to add the legs here, so we're going to do a little curve like this, and actually has like little fingers or claws for the back. And for the front, similar, just a little arm right there. And then we'll see another little bit of the arm on the other side coming out from the other side of the mouse. And we need a tail. So the tail is going to be long and skinny. Maybe it goes out and it bends down a little bit for the tail. Okay, so in real life, the mouse is probably smaller than this compared to the lion, but I wanted us to be able to see it. So there it is. All right, and now we've got our two characters. They're both free now because the mouse decided to help the lion in exchange for the lion not eating him in the first place earlier. So let's draw our rope here, our net. So I'm going to just do some kind of squiggly lines. Back and forth. Because I'm going to show that the net is on the ground now, and then I'll go back through the other way. Some squiggly lines here. I'm choosing to draw with pen, which means that sometimes I make mistakes in my drawing that I'm showing you, and so what I try to do is if I do make a mistake, I just decide how big of a deal it is. For example, I was thinking about this mouse here, and I wish I had drawn the mouse, the back part of the body a little smaller. I meant to have it end a little smaller, but so that's what I wish I did. But since I made a mistake, it's just, then I look at it and I just decide how big of a deal is it? Because if it's a big deal to me, then I can try to fix it by making it into something else. Like I could put a rock back there and change the body. Or if I can look at it and say, well, I think it still looks okay. You can still tell this is a lion, this is a mouse, and if that's okay, then I can just leave it and I don't have to worry about it. Especially because when I add color, and when you add color, if you have any mistakes, it helps you focus on the main idea and not on the little details that might have not come out right. Now, if I was drawing with pencil, then I'd just erase it and do it the way I wanted it. But just in case you, like me, are using a pen, just explaining what I recommend if you make a mistake. So, and then I'm going to do some background here. I'm going to draw a line across the paper. So this is the savannah. That's where this lion lives. And I guess mice can live in a lot of places. I looked that up. So just do some hills in the background to give like a sense of distance back there. And I'll show a tree back here too that kind of shows where they are, that helps us think of the savannah. So I'm going to start with a base, a flat base and two lines coming out, and then this kind of tree from the pictures I've seen, kind of flat and up in the tops of the branches like this. And then I'll do some bushes around it. When I look at pictures of the savannah, that's what I see. Some bushes in the background here and there. And this would be grassland, just grass. Okay, so I have my drawing, and then I'm going to be painting this today to add color. So I will make a copy, and if you would like to paint, if you have paint at home, then you could be getting that. If you want to use something else instead, like colored pencil or crayon, marker, anything you have is great. If you don't have any color nearby or at home, just use your pen or your pencil to go over your shapes, so you could add texture. You could shade things in to make it more interesting, so that like you're basically still coloring it in, but you could have light gray, dark gray, or things like that. So if you do have paint, you could pull out your paint, and this is the watercolor set I'll be using today, just a regular one. I have a cup of water and a paint shirt here that you can either wear that or use it as a place to wipe off your brush if you need to. And I'll get started. So with watercolor, you might remember or know that one strategy we use with watercolor is called a wash. And I'll just talk about this. Even if you're not using watercolor today, that's fine, and you can just color in any way you want. But just a wash is where we get our paper wet first without paint, and then we drop on the paint on top. We brush on the paint, and it helps it kind of have more of a watery look, a soft blended look. And it's really great technique to do for things like a sky or a big field, any space that's big and open. So I got my sky wet. You can tell because my paper's wrinkly and see-through. This paper is regular copy paper, so it doesn't hold its shape very well with water on it. It will wrinkle. And if you have any paper at home that's thicker, either cardstock or watercolor paper, then you could use that, and your paper won't wrinkle as much. But this will work, and when it's dry, if it gets too wrinkly, then after it dries you can just set it under some books, some heavy books, and it'll flatten back out, hopefully. So I'm just going to get not all of the sky blue. I'm gonna get lots of it covered, but I'll leave some spaces. That could be the clouds. Those could be cloudy areas. And the other thing I was going to tell you to be careful about on a wash is if you have cheaper paper like this that isn't made for paint necessarily, that we just have to be careful not to put too much water or not to rub too hard on it if it's wet, because it will rip. So, but I really like painting on just copy paper, especially when we're just doing things to learn and have fun. I think it's great. So whatever you have works. Great. Okay, and then that's one way, is to do a wash, right? So to do a big area. So let me move down, and I'm going to do another wash on my hills back here. And I'll choose a different color. So I got those wet, and now I'm going to do some green. You can see with a wash, I don't worry. I'm holding my brush farther up. I'm not as worried about controlling my brush. It's just not as important because I'm not trying to stay in a tiny space right here. When I move to the smaller spaces, you'll see that. Hold it a little closer down. This part I'm just trying to blend and get like a rough idea of like the colors that could be on those mountains. Just thinking about pictures I've seen. Okay. So just a rough idea. The more random it looks like that, the more natural it might look, the more real. Here's an example of the opposite. So now I've got a tree here that is a really defined shape, and I don't want that to be blended all over the place. I want it to be filled in exactly in that shape. So I'm gonna get my brush so that it's just to the tip. I put paint on the tip, not as much water, more paint. And I'm painting like holding the brush really close down, almost like I'm drawing with a pencil. And I'm just filling that in. And this way I have lots of control over my hand and the brush. So hopefully this doesn't, it might drip if I hold it up, but there's that. So if you get a spot that has too much water on it, I dried off my brush, and then I'm going to press it on and try to soak up some of the water. That's one way to make it so that it doesn't drip on a different part on accident. Okay. All right, and then my tree, same thing with my tree. I want my tree to stand out. I want it to be brighter than the background. So I'm going to take care with my brush to paint it really specifically. And I'm just telling you these tips, not because you have to do it in the exact same way or places that I'm doing. Like, if you want to do, you can use these techniques in different places on your page. So I'm just telling you so you know that you have a choice. If you come to your tree and you want your tree to be more like this wash, like you want it to be wet and then drop colors on it and fill it in, that's totally fine. That would work great too. I'm just showing you the different strategies so that you can decide where, so you know what they are, and then you'll be able to decide where you want to use them. And for me, that just, for this picture, I'm choosing to do it this way. It makes sense to me. Okay, and one thing that it can go either way. Sometimes I like to do the bigger area first with watercolor, so that's why I started with the sky and then I moved to the smaller detail of the tree. I like to do it that way sometimes. You don't have to. So if you are going to do a wash, get your paper wet first, then you might want to do that first, and then you can go in with the smaller details later. But if you do it the opposite way, it will still work. Just, it might be, I guess, so the reason I do that though is that if you get the whole big area wet first, and let's say you accidentally go over another spot that you were going to paint more carefully, it's okay because you're still going to go over it later and paint carefully. But if you spend all your time painting all this stuff really carefully first, and then you go back and do a wash like all around it, and that accidentally goes onto it, then you might get it on the part that you just spent all that time on, and it might blur it or kind of undo your work. So it's fine if you want to do that either way. It just might turn out differently. So it depends what you want it to look like. If you don't know, just experiment. That's a lot of what I do too. It's how we learn. These kinds of things. Okay, so my ground's wet. It looks kind of gray in the camera, I think, but it's just water. It just looks that way because it's on a board. It's showing through. So here's adding color to my wash. Probably going to need to add some more water because this paper is just soaking it up. Kind of drying out quickly. This is my grassy area, so I might also kind of do some, when I use my brush, I might do some motions that are like grass, that tall grass, even though I'm not drawing all the little specific pieces of grass, but I could still show that in the direction that I go. Brown mixed in there. It's that, maybe it's the dry season. No, I've got some green, but I've got some dry grass too. Then I'm just going to go in and fill in as much of my white space as I can. Really like to do that as much as possible. Again, it just shows my effort. It shows that I really thought about all the space on the paper. I didn't forget part of it. Sometimes we leave things white on purpose, but if we try to fill in the white space as a general rule, then it helps us think of creative things to do to fill the space. Then we know that we're being conscious of it, the possibilities. Okay, all right, so I've got my big areas, so now I just need to fill in a couple more things. Of course, the main characters. We'll come to those in a second. So I'm going to go back with my point of my brush again, and I'm just going to go over these bushes. I am hoping that the wash behind it is dry enough that I'm not going to blend into that. Hopefully. too much water. So just, there's a balance between the water and the paint, and you find that as you try it. But just remember, if your paint isn't coming out, if you're not able to paint, then you probably need more water to make it flow. And then if it's too light, you need more paint. Right here on my painting, I can see that just like I was talking about, the brown I'm doing now is blending into the background because it's still wet. And it's, I mean, that's okay. Again, it's a small mistake. It doesn't matter too much, but it's just something to be aware of. If you have more time, that you can really wait for your background to dry before you go and do your details on top if you don't want it to blend. See, like this is an example of how it bleeds out a little bit, but it's okay. I mean, it's brown is one of the colors I used for the background, so I don't think it's too noticeable. But yeah, and also that reminds me too, to just give you a reminder that if you are painting or drawing and you need a break, that can be a great thing to get up and go walk around, do something else. Maybe go look at some pictures of these animals, or something like that, and then come back to it when you have when you're ready to pay attention to what you're doing again. Sometimes it can really help to go stretch your legs, especially if it's been 20 or 30 minutes. You can pause the video and come back to it at any time. Or you don't need to follow this video at this point either. You can just turn it off and you can finish on your own if you'd like. And hopefully share it with me on the Google Classroom when you're done, or through email. But if you are still watching to the end, that's great too. Sometimes it's nice to have company, and just to see what someone else is doing, even if it's different than yours. It could just kind of give you some ideas of things maybe you do want to do, or maybe you don't want to do. So it's great if you want to keep it on and paint with me. Hopefully you're enjoying adding color to your drawing, whether that's with paint or whatever you're using. I did my whole lion yellow at first, and then now I'm going to choose some other colors to go back over the top for certain parts. So I'll probably do the main orange. I'll be doing that right now. Lions can be all kinds of cool colors, so you could look that up if you want, or think about lions you've seen. And maybe you could even look at the other stories I mentioned at the beginning of the video and do drawings of those creatures, like the tiger. That would be really fun. You could look that up. If you get too much water and you don't want it to drip, just dip your brush, a dry brush, back in and it will soak up some of the water and clean it up for you. Okay. Do a little bit of pink. It's a cool story how this mouse is able to help the lion, and how the lion realizes that there are things that a small creature could help him with. So I hope you enjoyed looking at this fable with me today and drawing it. And remember, there are other stories from different cultures that have similar themes, and it can be really fun to compare those. So thank you so much for drawing with me. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.